So my question is kind of based towards Hunter, but both of you can answer. So a lot of the things that you said while you were speaking, you claim that the big tech bias it wasn't censorship, it's just a bias. Where do you draw the line between where a bias ends and censorship begins? Because what you described was conservative ideas, like mainstream conservative ideas, were not visible to the public, but that's okay because there are some low-level leftist ideas that nobody in their right mind would support that are being pushed to the back as well. So where does the line get drawn between political bias and political censorship for these big tech companies?
Well, I think bias is more of a subtle thing. I think that bias exists, like, it'd be more likely to find bias, sort of like what we were talking about earlier, within like search results, how data is presented to you when you search. I feel like that's more of what bias is. Censorship, I mean, it kind of goes along with the word. It's being terminated, deleted because of your political views. So that's really where, I mean, maybe that's too harsh of a line to draw, but that's sort of where I would draw the line. Yeah.
So don't these serve the same purpose where the main goal is to keep the regular public from being able to view the content? Isn't that the basic purpose of censorship? And if bias is being used to keep people from viewing the content, isn't that serving the basic use of censorship, whether you define it as such or not?
It would be if the bias was actually doing that, where it's not. I mean, like the data I mentioned, conservative pages on Facebook, conservative YouTube channels, they are outperforming all the leftist pages. So
that's actually not true on YouTube, though. On YouTube, the left...
maybe that might be a little bit of a sweeping claim.
No.
For the most part, I mean, right-wingers have a massive presence online, and they do tend to dominate most left-leaning pages.
I don't know. I mean, if you look at the YouTube channels of Vox compared to people like Steven Crowder, Vox have got 2 million more subscribers and billions of more views. Like
I mean, they're also a syndicated page that's been around long.
Sure, absolutely. So, but they get pushed to the top of the search rankings. You know, I mean, if I search Steven Crowder, I might not get his videos, but if I search Vox, I certainly get theirs. You know what I mean?
Sure. I mean, I think that yes and no. I think that bias, like I said, can play a role in keeping ideas out of the public eye, but based on the data, it just does not seem that that's happening right now.
So just one more part to this. So considering that the majority of content that is actually discovered on a Google search is found on the first page, which, I mean, most of us probably assume this, but it's actually been proven, the majority of people do not go to the second page. If it's not on the first page, they don't search farther. So knowing the habits of the people and knowing that as long as they keep conservative content off that first page, their bias doesn't necessarily keep it off of their search engine completely, but it is removing it from the public eye and from the majority of the public eye.
But that's not happening. I would agree with you if that were happening. I mean, Breitbart, I know a few years ago, Breitbart, I think don't quote me on this because I'd have to double check my sources, but I know for a fact that Breitbart at one point was actually getting more clicks than like porn sites, Pornhub or something. I remember someone told me about this, so I thought it was very funny.
Yeah, during the 2016 election, they were doing really well.
I mean, when I'm Googling and doing research for my videos, I see right-wing pages as well as left-wing pages coming up on the first page all the time. So I know that's anecdotal. I mean, the best I can tell you is what the Economist study found is that there really is no ideological bias in Google search results. The bias does exist, though, where syndicated, certified news sources are usually pushed to the top of search results, probably like on YouTube. But I would agree with your point, but it's not happening, so I can't agree with you.
I'm of the opinion that it's happening, to be honest. I've seen it more than enough times myself just using the search engines. I mean, just look at the autocomplete on Google. You couldn't get a more crystal clear case. Search Donald Trump and then see what comes up, and then search Hillary Clinton and see what comes up.
Well, there's also just a lot more negative articles about Trump.
Yeah, but it's not the articles that are the problem. We're talking just the auto-completion, because that drives traffic in and of itself. And so you won't find anything after a certain point with Hillary that you know is going to be there. Like Hillary Clinton emails doesn't auto-complete. This is happening, man. I'm absolutely
But
certain
that's
of it.
like it doesn't autocomplete when you're trying to type Hillary
Yeah, but
Clinton
that's-
emails. Like
that's
that's
billions.
the big tech's doing to
Yeah,
keep
but
all
this
of us
is-
conservatives
This is
down.
why Robert Epstein was saying, look, we drove millions of votes to Hillary, and he's a Democrat. He's a personal friend of Hillary's. And he's saying it in congressional testimony. They are doing that, man.
I think that bias does, and I think that bias can exist, and it does exist on social media platforms. But you'll have to give me more compelling evidence of censorship, other than it doesn't autofill one search result for Hillary Clinton.
That's not
emails.
just one. That's just an example.
What's that?
Google literally had an internal memo called the Good Censor where they say it's their responsibility to prevent right-wing populist movements.
All right, let's see some results. Let's see it happening.
It is. That's
But where?
in the search results.
Where though? Like, tell me where.
Well, what? We've just given
Because
you
I'm
examples.
able to. Because I'm giving examples.
What
of
examples would you like? Like,
I'm
what would
giving
you satisfied?
I'm giving examples of actual data based on studies that have been conducted that didn't find ideological bias in Google search results. And I'm sorry, but anecdotal evidence or an internal memo doesn't really hold up when you compare it to the data.
Yeah, but then you can just listen to them saying it. Like Tim Cook says it's their responsibility to promote social justice. He'll say it like he's a preacher at a pulpit. Like this is an ideological goal. Like this is the same thing.
Well,
that
yeah,
Jim
I mean,
Conte said.
these of course these people have their own political beliefs, but
And so we have this the people at the top saying they want to do it. We've got the memos of them doing it. We've got people like James Damore get fired for simply saying that perhaps there is some sort of science behind the connection between biology and gender. And then you've got all of there's currently a conservative union in Facebook because they're constantly being...
well, I do think that Facebook is a lot worse than Google and YouTube.
I think they're all as bad as one another at this point. I mean, it's constantly happening.
Not at all. No, we cannot say they're all as bad. I think Twitter out of all of them is the worst because Twitter is ridiculous. All right, I think that if anywhere conservative bias exists, it's on Twitter, but not on YouTube. And it's not at all the same on YouTube when massive conservative channels are able to thrive. Look at how
I think YouTube is the best for it. You're right.
I do think YouTube is the
they're
best
the best option at the moment. But I don't think there's any doubt that, there's so much evidence out there that I'm surprised
I
you're
just
overlooking.
haven't really heard any evidence, and I've been able to give far more evidence on the contrary.
Okay.